You're listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast, brought to you by DraftKings. Great deal going on. You throw down a deposit, you get up to 1,000 in free plays. All right, now joined by the one and only, the only source you really need for Arizona women's basketball. I'm not kidding with you. PJ Brown from the Arizona Daily Star, Ultimate Access, Ultimate Insider. PJ, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. All right. So you've been pretty busy. Obviously, everybody's back on campus. So you've been working on some stuff. So before we get into everything, what have you been up to?
Wow. I'm working about 3 more stories right now, at least. We're going to have a story coming up. I'm talking to Adia about scheduling. Mm-hmm. And what that's like. So stay tuned for that in the next couple of weeks. I have a story on Lemiah Hilton coming up, I believe, on Wednesday. Another story on Sunday about another recruit. Mm-hmm. And obviously I talked to Jade Loville this past week, and that story will run sometime in the next couple of weeks. I also have notes coming up, and then as the teams just started preseason training, and so I'll probably be out there. And there's, I haven't talked to a few of the returners for a long time, so right. I'll probably, the Kate Reeses of the world and the Maddie Connors. So I'll probably be talking to them soon.
Okay, so let's get to Jade Loville. I've had so many people have asked me about it, and I always say, you know what, we're going to be getting PJ back on so she can speak with the authority. But here's just kind of my rough from watching her a little bit last year, just watching. She's coming in here, and I think you used the term bucket. The last time, one of Arizona's struggles last year was getting buckets. And she comes in here with a unique ability to be able to score the ball. Is she going to get the ball in her hands and say, listen, we need you to get points? How's that going to work?
Yeah, it's interesting. I talked to her a little bit, and I talked to Adia about her. Mm-hmm. The thing about Jade is she's really a scorer, and Arizona hasn't had a scorer since Ari McDonald, right? Yeah. So we'll see her score a lot. But also she told me that we're going to see a lot of other parts of her game that we haven't seen before. So that includes passing and ball handling, and she's a really good defensive player. She's working on her rebounding, so expect to see a lot of rebounding from her. But she expects to become, I think, more of an all-around player through working with Adia Barnes and Salvo Copa. And this year, that's sort of what her goal is, along with team goals. Right. And so she's looking to get better. She's somebody who's a gym rat. She's always in the gym. We will see a jump just from what we saw last year when she played against us. I should say against Arizona.
Right. No, I got you.
And we will see a jump from that to what she is today. She spent the summer not in Tucson with the rest of the team. She actually had 2 trainers in Phoenix that she worked with. And this is what I found interesting. They watched a lot of film on Arizona and Adia Barnes' system. Mm-hmm. And they decided where she would fit, and they worked on parts of her game that needed to improve based on that. Plus, she did a lot of 5-on-5. So she actually played with Maddie Connor this summer. Mm-hmm. So that was interesting. So she got a sense of like how to pass to Maddie when she's ready to shoot. So that should be a really good connection that she has on the team. So when she's in the game, she'll just sort of know where Maddie is and know that Maddie is ready and be able to make that perfect pass to her.
Right. Nick Howard makes a question, and I think I know where he's going with this. So official practice doesn't really start, but I've had a few people ask me this as well. How does it work before I know how it works, but but how does it work though for Adia's squad when before official practices start, as far as being able to work out, work with the coaches and whatnot?
Sure. Over the summer, they have individual training, and that's what they come in. Typically, last couple of years with COVID, it was different. But this year they got back to the more regular off-season training, which is individual. So the posts will work with Adia and Coach Ashley. And the guards will work with Salvo and Coach Aaron. And they go in for individuals, and they go as a group, and sometimes they go individual, but they're only able to work with these players a certain number of hours each week. And that ticks up as you get closer to the season. So this summer was all about what they call individual. It's either a group with your position or individual, but they only have a certain number of hours. The players, as you saw, were posting videos that they were getting up in McHale and shooting on their own. So they were getting extra training in on their own. And this week, since school started, they're able to start working more as team workouts. So that means that you'll see 5-on-5, and they'll be working on certain plays and things like that now. And that started. And again, the number of hours starts going up as they get closer to the season. Now, basically, I don't know if it's officially preseason training has started, but we're getting close if it hasn't.
Right. One thing that I've noticed too is that, and again, it's hard to tell because I'm just looking at social media like a lot of other people are, but you look at it, it already seems like there's a pretty good bond with these. I mean, you saw some of the swimming pool pictures and whatnot. They looked like they were already having a good time. And these are people these are young ladies that are new to the program, whether that's Paris, whether that's Jade. It looks like they're already kind of a team.
Yeah, and some of that happened over the summer. Almost everybody was here most of the summer. And so they got to bond. They were doing a lot of stuff together, hanging out together. They were the only ones here, basically.
Right.
So they really became a close-knit group. And some of them were already living with their roommates. So like Kaylin and Lemiah are rooming together with Jade. So those two, Kayla and Lemiah, were here, and they got to know each other very well, and they bonded. And now Jade comes in. I think Jade was the only one who wasn't here all summer, but she was training on her own. And she's come in, and she's just fit right in. Adia told me that Jade gets along with everyone, and I can tell from talking to her, she's just very easygoing, very friendly. None of this like, I'm the grad student, I know everything. No, it's not like that. In fact, it's interesting that she is rooming with 2 freshmen, right? And that shows a lot about Jade and her willingness, and part of who she is, that she wants to make everybody, it's very inclusive. Everybody's part of the team. She's got really great knowledge that she can give to these youngsters who are coming in. And that just helps with the culture. And then the fact that she's going and she's working extra, and these younger ones were working extra, they're probably pulling each other to the gym. Which is really what you want in your culture, is that everybody's doing extra, doing it together, and all of that. So they're starting out, what you're seeing is they're starting out way ahead of the game, because they've already built these connections with each other, and they know now, they're going to know, like, when I'm on the court, I have more of a sense of where my teammate is, when I can pass to her, what her tendencies are on the court, all of those things that take a while to mesh, they've sort of already gotten that. And
Right.
hopefully that they'll start out more ready to go. And now when Adia starts these team training sessions, she can start like at a more sophisticated level, right? With her system. And hopefully then they can get higher and higher. And as she does the tweaks to her system, they're getting it at a faster pace.
Right.
And they're able to move along faster, which means what you see on the court is a much better version of what you would see day one.
All right. One thing, let me tell you about the DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX. I've been telling PJ, and again, she's the expert, that I think could be Adia Barnes' deepest team right there. We're going to get to that in a little bit. But if you think that I know what I'm talking about, maybe go in there. You can make some Arizona women's basketball bets. Or if you think that I'm an idiot, you could say Mike doesn't know anything. I'm going to go against what he says. Doesn't really matter. 21 and up, Arizona only. Gambling issue, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. Arizona women's basketball is in the best conference in the country. Steel sharpens steel. Or is that the term? Yeah. Yes. Steel sharpens steel. And come NCAA tournament time, you're not going to want to check it. You're not going to want to mess with these cats. So again, check it out. DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX. Okay. Nick Howard asks again, who do you think makes the biggest jump from last year to this year?
Wow, that's a really good question.
It is.
That's tough.
You can go multiple. You can go multiple players if you want.
Yeah, there's two returners because we'll talk about the newbies separate.
Mm-hmm.
But there's two returners that I think are really going to make a jump, and I think one is Lauren Ware. She's a junior, and this sometimes is the year where players make a jump. I know that in another sport, Coach Rubio, who coaches the volleyball team at U of A, told me that when players become juniors, they're sort of like they look around and they get things, right? They've already been here a couple of years. They sort of understand what's expected of them, what the system is. And I think that's maybe when they make a jump. And Lauren's going to be a junior. Also, when I talked to her at the beginning of the summer, she seemed more dedicated and recommitted to basketball. She had spent part of the spring after the basketball season ended with volleyball. And because when she came in here, if everybody remembers, she was
top 50 volleyball player.
Right. She's going to be a dual sport athlete. And because of COVID, she ended up being just a basketball player. But she always had it in the back of her mind, like, what if? What could I do with volleyball? So she decided to take a chance and to train with the team a little bit. And through that, she realized that she really wants to play basketball. So she's all basketball from here on out. And it seemed like when I talked to her, she felt this sort of renewal and recommitment to basketball. And I watched her in some individual practice, and she had already looked like she had taken a jump. So I expect, and I would imagine that she would take another jump, and it will be noticeable. So, and I think that will be, I mean, it's great for her, but I think it's great for the team too, to have Lauren take that next step. I think that's really important for this team. The other player, and we've talked about again a little bit, is Helena. I've talked about how she went and played with Spain's probably under 20 team, or under 23 team. I always get those mixed up. For 3x3 basketball, which
is fantastic basketball, by the way.
Right. It's 3-on-3, and you play half court, and it's a really fast game. And I don't know if anybody saw some of those videos, but
I didn't.
Helena looked like lights out. I mean, not only her shooting, but of course those great passes that she makes. And I just think, and I talked to her a couple of weeks ago, I don't know, I just have this feeling that kind of work in the off season for her, and then coming back for part of individual training with her coaches at the U of A, she will take that jump. She's going to be a senior, and I really think that we'll see some more really good stuff from Helena. I think that don't forget about Helena.
What's the latest on Kate Reese?
Yeah, Kate's been practicing with the team since she came back in July, which is when most of the players came back. From what I see, she looks good. They've shown her in the weight room. She looks strong. I haven't talked to her since she's been back. That's somebody I need to talk to, but I would imagine she's coming along just fine.
Okay, now let's talk about some of your profiles, because again, so one player, we've talked a lot about the incoming freshmen, the three very highly rated, I guess I could call them domestic freshmen for lack of a better term, with Kaylin Gilbert, Paris, then you got Maya Nagy, obviously. Lemiah Hilton's kind of flown under the radar a little bit, but mainly just because it's different being up in Canada. Obviously, it's a different level of competition. Tell us what we need to know about Lemiah Hilton. I know that you've got some pretty exclusive access right there.
Yeah, I talked to Lemiah, and there's a story coming out. It's supposed to come out Wednesday, I believe. The other reason that Canadians seem to fly under the radar is that for some reason the scouting services don't go to Canada.
Right.
So they did say that she was in the top 50 of recruits coming out of Canada. They could tell us that, but they couldn't tell us other things. And it's really odd because she's played with Team Canada.
Well, that was going to be my point. How does that happen when you play for Team Canada? It's not like you're buried in Saskatchewan playing against, middle school players.
Right. And not only did she trained, I think, with the top team, and then this year she played with Team Canada, and they won a silver down in Buenos Aires. And to make that team, you have to be really, really good.
Right.
To make any national team, you have to be tops.
For sure.
And so, I expect that we should see a lot out of Lemiah. From talking to her, it's really interesting when you talk to every single one of Adia's new players. They're all very mature. And mature for their age, wherever they are, whatever level they are. So talking to her, she's very well spoken, very mature for a freshman. So is Kaylin, so is Maya, so is Paris. You don't always have freshmen who come in at that level who feel comfortable enough the first time they're talking to you or the second time they're talking to you to just talk and just feel at ease and comfortable to talk to you. And the same with the transfers. I mean, Jade was amazing.
Right.
Lauren Fields and Esmery, they were all great. So Lemiah, very interesting. She has an older brother who really has mentored her. He's a basketball coach at Niagara College.
Right.
And, he really has helped her grow in her game. She really likes defense.
That's always a way to endear yourself to your head coach.
Yeah, absolutely. And to the fans, because they're used to seeing really good defense. So you're going to see some good defense from Lemiah. And I just think that I think she's going to find her spot and her niche into this team. She just seems to have a little bit of everything, and it will be fun to watch her grow.
Right. All right. I wanted to ask you a little bit, too, about a couple of the other incoming guards here in a second, but two things. FOCO, the #1 sports memorabilia merchandise in the entire country, officially licensed, cool stuff. Check it out. Bobbleheads, paraphernalia, anything you want, they've got. And Four Peaks Brewery, the official brew of PHNX Sports. Check it out. Check out their website. All kinds of good stuff going on there. Okay. Kaylin Gilbert, Paris Clark. Now, one's a McDonald's All-American, one technically isn't, but their rankings are fairly similar. It's just, what do you expect from both of them, and how are their games a little bit different?
Sure. I think we really haven't talked about a freshman class that's been like this for quite some time, where you can go down the line and all four, you're just like, yeah, can't wait to see them play because they're going to do special things. Right. And that's the same. That's with Kaylin and Paris. They're two different, we saw Paris in the McDonald's All-American game. If you saw her, and she was like a dog on defense.
For sure.
She got a couple steals and then she finished, which is a big thing, right? Not everybody can finish on what seems like to be an easy layup. And she was able to do that. So, you've got her, and then you have Kaylin, who made USA basketball. So while she didn't make McDonald's All-American, she made USA basketball, which is very interesting. The thing that I learned about Kaylin is she's very strong mentally. So, for example, I think that there's two ways that we can talk about this. One is that she learned last year at IMG Academy, if she misses a shot, she's not dwelling on it.
Right.
So she gets back on defense and she comes right back down and she tries again to make another shot. And she doesn't get caught in that, oh, I did that. It's like she blocks it out. She has a short memory. So she's mentally strong that way, which will help not only her, but help her team. But she's also got this sort of chip on her shoulder, right? She didn't make the McDonald's All-American team, which is really odd.
Right.
But then she makes USA basketball.
Right.
So I think she's got this kind of mentality, and I think she will carry this throughout her college career, that even if I don't make all freshman Pac-12, right? Next year or the year after, I'm going to make all Pac-12. Then I'm going to do this, right? And that she's just going to sort of shake off maybe the non-recognition, and like just be better in some other way. And so that's fascinating to me, how she was able to do that. And I believe that she will be able to continue to do that. And I think that type of mentality adds something to her package and what she brings, and thus changing a little bit of how the team operates and what it looks like, and just sort of and adds to that culture, as well as how they shake off a loss, right? And how they move forward like that, and are always looking to improve. So each individually, but then as a collective. And I think Kaylin's sort of attitude and what she brings to it will help form how the rest of the team is.
You and I were talking about this probably about a week ago or so, or texting about it. And the thing that I find very fascinating is that while Adia's always recruited well, the recruiting has taken another step even higher up. I mean, you look at this class like you talked about. This is a top 5 class. Then you're looking at the 2023 class, which you already have 2 top 10 prospects there. You've got a top 20 player there. Well, let's talk about some of those players as well, because I know that you got some stuff working on that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. What we talked about, I feel like it takes a while to build up. So part of the thing was when Adia came here, there were no recruits. She had no class of 2016. She somehow went out and scrambled and got Lucia Alonso to come here. And basically that was her class. She had another player who ended up leaving, but it was Lucia. And she built on Lucia. And then the next year, because, you, for most part, you have to get in on these kids early. You're recruiting them in 8th and 9th grade. So when she first started, her first couple classes were kind of like a scramble, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I just got to get I got to get bodies in here.
I got to get bodies. I got to hurry up, find good kids, culture kids, and that kind of thing, right? Now, if you look at the class of 2023, I just talked to Brea Cunningham, and I had a story on her in yesterday's paper and Saturday's paper, and she was talking to Adia when she was in 8th or 9th grade.
Right.
And the same with Montea Dew. And so now you're getting to see these players, really build this long-term relationship with Adia, also get recruited by others. But when the time comes to sign, they're like, oh yeah, it's Adia, right? That's what Brea said. When she was, if anybody read my story, please go read my story.
Where can they find it again?
You can download the Wildcaster for free. And you can get a subscription to the Arizona Daily
Star. Well worth it.
Right. And you can get just a digital subscription too, which is better too, if you don't want to get the paper. But Brea told me, and she's like, she prefaced it. She's like, this probably sounds bad, but she went on her official visit to UCLA. She was in the midst of talking to Corey Close and one of her assistants, Tasha, and she likes them a lot. But she was there and she was thinking, my God, I have a better connection to Adia, right? This is what she was thinking. And she's like, and when I go there, I'm going to sign with Adia, right? That's what she was thinking. And it's part of this is because she's been talking to her for years, right? And it wasn't just about basketball. It was about everything about their lives. It was about how Adia could help her and how together they could help this program. It was a lot of different things. And that's why you see the change sort of in some of the recruiting. Now, not only is Adia Barnes getting top-rated kids, but they're also really good people. If you talk to each one of them, they're good people, and they're people who fit Arizona and the culture that Adia Barnes has built here. She's not just getting like the best kid in the class because they're the best kid in the class, right?
She's not worried about the star ranking. She's worried about the talent with the cohesion.
Right. It's a whole package, right? She's looking at the whole package and not just the number one person. If the number one person is all that, yeah, then that's who Adia wants here. And the other thing you look at is, everybody's excited about this because she's getting all these 5 stars, all these top, they're top 20 kids now, right? For this 2023 class. Well, I was just looking at the whole top 100 and who's already going to where they've committed, right? For the class of 23. And you look at like a Stanford and they picked up a girl who is number 40 on the list. Of course, she goes to the same high school as Maya Najee went to and Paige Beckers. So really, we don't know if she's really 40 or not, but she goes to that Hopkins High School in Minneapolis. And that's a 40 kid, right? So eventually, and she's considered a 4-star. So eventually, Adia Barnes might be getting a 40 who's a 4-star, but who's the perfect fit and who's the right player, but she's still a top player, right? So now we're excited about, because we expect, because they never had it before, right? And so now to get all these top 20s is amazing. But when you look at what Stanford's doing and what Tara Vanderveer does, at some point that's probably going to happen where Adia will have a high 4-star player who is a 40 or a 38 or something. And that's fine. It fits her program. So I had talked to Brea and And I also talked to Monte Adu, and that story's coming out Sunday. So that's another interesting player for that class.
23, yeah.
For 23. And it is still, there's still two players who are out there who, high school players who have Adia in their top 6 or 10 or whatever, who probably are taking official visits coming up soon, very soon. And so there might be 1 or 2 more that get added to this class.
How did the whole Jade Williams thing come about? Because again, we talked about it. This was when we talked before. It was right after she had committed. But again, for people that don't know, longtime UCLA commit, top 20 player, kind of an internet star, for lack of a better term. And by the way, she can really play basketball. What I found fascinating though is that she's signing on to a program that you're bringing in Kaylin. You've got Paris at the guard spots, and she's like, I'm coming in too. So how did that all come about? Because she, like I said, she's really kind of a phenomenon.
Yeah, she is. She's got NIL as a high school player and big NIL deals, really big. And she's pretty, she seems online like she's a pretty flashy player. And yet she's also the player who, while she's getting these NIL deals, she's saving it, right? Yeah. She's saving all her money. She wants to give back to the community. So some of the deals she's doing might be like an in-kind plus there's a community type of element to it. So she's having these companies do something in the community. But I haven't talked to Jada yet. It's on my list. I'm trying to get through to her. She's so busy.
Right, for sure.
And but from what I can tell, and from what she said, some of these kids want to stay close to home. She's from San Diego. She plays with Brea Cunningham at La Jolla Country Day. And staying home for both of those meant either probably UCLA or Arizona, because those are probably the closest D1 Power 5, the whole thing. And she just probably felt more comfortable at Arizona when all came down to it. And maybe she wants to continue playing with Brea because they're high school teammates. She knows a lot of some of the freshmen this year. She already knows them from playing against them in, AAU or big, I shouldn't say AAU, but big club tournaments and things. And so, I think all of that, I think some of that is they all want to play together. I mean, that's what Brea was like. I really also, she said, I want to play where the best are coming to Arizona right now. And so that's probably part of what Jada wants to do. And then there's probably an element of the community stuff that I believe that Adia does that probably played into it. Hopefully I'll get a chance to talk to her soon and get the full flavor of what went into that decision.
Well, you really know too that Jada is a big time when LeBron James is at her games watching. That was really cool to see. Luis Molina has an interesting question that I'm going to pop here in just a second, but got to pay the bills. DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX. All right. You put down the deposit, you can get up to 1,000 in free plays. Like I said, I like Arizona women's basketball this year. I think they're going to be fantastic. I think maybe they don't go as far as previous teams, but I think they're going to be one of the deepest teams that Arizona's had. I'm going to ask PJ about that before we sign off. But again, check it out. All kinds of stuff, football, basketball, anything you need. It's all here. Women's basketball as well. So check it out. DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX. All right. Luis Molina says, who are the potential starters at this point? And again, I get that it's really early. Mike, here's basically what I do when people ask me this question. I just go with, I think Shayna's going to start. Kate Reese going to start. Are there any locks?
This is really tough. Luis had to ask me this question.
Right.
I think that Maya's gonna really push Lauren and Kate for a starting position.
Right.
I really do. And if not, she will be obviously one of the first off the bench.
Right.
I think that, you know, I don't know if they're going to start Jade or bring her off the bench. I mean, I don't know. She could be a good punch off the bench.
Right.
I don't think that, to be very honest, I don't think that Adia Barnes knows yet.
Right. Right.
Until she,
which is a good problem to have.
Because they have to earn it, right? That's the thing. You have to earn minutes in Adia's system. And so they've got to play more and practice more and really earn it for her to give you, for even her to say, oh, I know exactly who's going to start. So is it going to be Jade? Is it going to be Paris? Is it going to be Kaylin or Lemiah? I don't know. And then you have Esmery
and Lauren and yes,
you know, and you've got that now. And we haven't talked about Helena, but I still think that Helena's probably the sixth person off the bench.
Isn't she? And she's
settled into that role, and I think it's really good for her to come in like that, and then to help lead whoever's in that second bunch that comes out, and you know, the people whoever it is going to take over for Shayna when she goes out, or Kate, and if it's Kate and Lauren, then, you know, just to lead that second bunch, because that's sort of what she does and what she does really well. So I would imagine that Helena would stay in that, you know, first, second person off the bench, depending on, like, if Maya doesn't start and then Maya relieves, you know, a Lauren or a Kate for a little while, she'll be the sixth person, but then Helena will come in. So it's, I consider it close. It's very, you know.
And I asked you this before, but I still think it's kind of a fascinating question. Just from a skill, talent perspective, is there anything that you look at and you say, besides the cohesion, you're like, maybe a little light on shooting, maybe a little light on bigs, maybe a little light on, because again, PJ, I look at it again, just from an outsider and just from the boxes that you generally check off from a basketball perspective, I don't really see anything missing in that regard.
Yeah, I think that it's very interesting. You know, sometimes Adia's teams have been light on bigs, right? Because some just didn't come up to that level, right? And I don't think that she's going to have that this year. Same with, for a long time, it was like, well, who's your point guard, right? Or who's this or something. I think that she's, with these players, they all fit a bucket. And I think it's a matter of just finding the minutes for everybody, as opposed to, and maybe who works better with who, you know, that just that little thing might give somebody an edge, you know, like maybe somebody comes in to fill in for that second guard and they work really well with Shayna, you know, or something, and that might give that second unit, if Shayna stays in, then that, or at some other point in the game, that it flows really well. And so I think that's really probably going to be the big thing, because they're all so talented.
Well, and that's the thing. It's almost, this feels almost like on a different level, kind of like the thing that UConn would have in the day, where you're just looking at the roster and you're like, there's 10, 11 players here that should probably be playing. I mean, and we talked about it before, and I think it's an underrated point as well, that you expertly broke down the recruiting, but what's impressive too is that this is national. It's not like it's just California or in kind of the Four Corners region. You're in Florida, you're in New York, you're in Minnesota. This has become a nationwide brand right here.
Yeah, and it took Adia sort of a little while to break in it. Like, Paris is the first one from New York.
Mhm.
We don't talk about New York basketball, but Paris does.
Right.
Paris has told me, people sleep on New York basketball, right?
Mhm.
And these are the first Adia's next class, 2023, has the first 2 recruits from her hometown of San Diego.
Right.
You would thought that like that would be the first place she got into, but
Right.
it was one of the first places where she did with Brea. I'm talking to you when you're in 8th grade,
Yeah.
and then all the way through, right? So she sort of did go back to her hometown for that. But yeah, Adia has started now breaking through all across the country. And what did that? The 2021 national championship game, because it was on national TV. I don't know, was it on ESPN or ABC? I don't know, because I was at the game, but
Right.
it was on that. I think it was ESPN.
And it set records too. You had over 4 million people watch it.
Right. And so all of a sudden everybody saw a couple things. Yes, they saw Ari McDonald, right? And she was the star. She was the most valuable player of the entire tournament, even though people voted somebody else. But it was Ari. But they saw Adia Barnes loving her team, giving Ari the freedom to run her team. And this is what kids look at. And a coach with passion, who believes in her players. And those are the things that kids look at. And then they go back and they say, wow, Sam and Ari they developed when they were there, and they became Sam and Ari, right? And now they're in the WNBA. So those kids look at all of that from all over the country, and then they say, I want to play for that coach.
Right. Okay.
And that's what's starting to happen.
All right. Before we sign off, we got to talk some Sam Thomas. So, sure. All right, let's, what do you got going on with Sam Thomas? Again, a WNBA all rookie. And, obviously kind of was, came out of nowhere, to be honest with you, because not drafted, worked her way up. Talk a little bit about Sam Thomas and just kind of where she's at right now.
Sure. Sam is getting ready to go overseas. She's going to play in Italy and Sardinia. And before she signed the contract, she ran it past Salvo Coppa.
Right.
Because he's from Italy, and said, is this a team I should play for? And he liked the coaches and everything, but the big thing he liked was they have the best beaches in Italy.
That's fantastic.
So that's all Sam really knows about the team. But she told me the other day that she's very excited about going, about learning different system and being coached by different coaches, and also improving her game. She said it's very offensive over there, and they look to the Americans to score. So Sam's going to be working on that, and also expanding her range of where she scores, right? Not just shooting from the 3-point line. So expect her game to get better in that way. And she's just really excited to travel around. She hasn't been there. She's going to visit probably one of her Mercury teammates, Meg Gustafson, will be in Greece.
Right.
And so they're planning to hang out with each other. And also Dominique McBride, who's a former U of A standout, is she isn't. I don't know if she's signed yet to play in Europe, but she will be signing soon, and they'll probably definitely see each other because those two are very close. But she had it was a tough season for the Mercury, but she really enjoyed it. She learned a lot about being a pro. She learned a different system, and was very close to her teammates. They really, because of the struggles they went through, they really came together as a team. And so that was a really good experience for Sam.
She's PJ Brown, Arizona women's basketball beat writer for the Arizona Daily Star. Check her out on Twitter, PJ Brown09. Get the paper, and if you can't, Wildcaster app is free. You can also get it digitally as well. Did I miss anything there?
I think that's it.
Okay, and she's again got other stuff. You got some other things coming up here as well. Just remind the folks real quick.
Sure. Lemiah Hilton stories coming out Wednesday. Montea Dew, I think, on Sunday. I got a story about Jade Loville, and I have big notes about Sam and a few other things coming out. And a story hopefully on scheduling soon.
All right. PJ, can't thank you enough, and we'll talk to you again in a couple weeks. Always appreciate your time.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, you've been listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast.